You would think two women who hated each other at first sight would at least have the decency to stay enemies. But New York never promised anyone good sense, only chaos. And heartbreak. And sometimes miracles. The morning it began, Manhattan was its usual loud, unapologetic beast, swallowing people whole before they'd even had their first cup of coffee. Elena Rodriguez, co-founder of Nova Agency and self-declared queen of controlled ambition, strode into the Midtown Conference Hall wearing a crisp suit and an attitude sharp enough to cut glass. She wasn't in the mood for surprises. She had a pitch to win. She was not, however, prepared for Olivia Chun. Olivia was already standing at the presentation table when Elena arrived, flipping through a sleek portfolio with the quiet confidence of someone who was used to being underestimated and enjoyed proving people wrong. Her cream blazer caught the overhead lights, her black hair forming a gentle cascade around her shoulders. Elena slowed without meaning to, momentarily forgetting to breathe. Something about the woman radiated calm, like a secret she refused to let the world rush her into telling. And that annoyed Elena immediately. "You're in my spot," Elena said, crossing her arms. Olivia lifted her gaze, her eyes warm but steady. "Pretty sure it's the client's spot. But if you need it to stand properly, I can move." Elena blinked, caught off guard. Sarcasm, but polite sarcasm, delivered with a smile that could melt steel beams? Fantastic. Just what she needed before a high-stakes pitch. She tightened her jaw. "I don't need anything from you. That makes two of us," Olivia replied lightly, closing the portfolio. They didn't know it then, but those first 5 seconds would become something they laughed about months later, when they'd grown close enough to trace every step that brought them together. For now they were rivals. And the city loves a rivalry. When the pitch meeting began, the clients sat in a long row, faces blank, waiting to be impressed. Elena lived for moments like this. Olivia apparently did too. Their presentations overlapped in structure, occasionally in tone. They were going after the same contract, the same vision, the same future. Except, Olivia's words carried something Elena wasn't prepared for. Heart. Humanity. She talked about creating campaigns that didn't just sell but connected, campaigns that made people feel seen. Elena was a strategist, brilliant and sharp, but Olivia was an artist who understood emotion. And as much as Elena hated to admit it, the woman next to her was dangerously good. When the meeting ended, they exited into the hallway at the same time, both pretending not to care about the outcome. "You know," Olivia said in her soft but sure voice, "your numbers were impressive." Elena let out a tight exhale. "And your concept was poetic." Olivia smiled, and something in Elena's chest tilted, just slightly annoyingly. "High praise," Olivia replied. "From you." But before Elena could retort, someone shouted down the hall. "Rodriguez. Chin. The board wants both of you back in the room." Elena frowned. "Both of us?" Olivia's eyebrows rose. "That's new." It turned out the client wanted a collaboration. Not one agency. Not one leader. Both. Elena saw stars. Not the good kind. "We don't collaborate," Elena said flatly. "We could try," Olivia countered, her voice gentle but unwavering. Elena's pulse spiked. "Try? With her? Impossible. Irrational. Absolutely out of the question. We'd kill each other," Elena snapped. Olivia tilted her head, looking almost amused. "I don't kill people. Especially not before lunch." Despite herself, Elena laughed. Just once. Just enough to surprise them both. The contract was signed that afternoon. By the time they stepped out of the building, the sky had shifted from bright blue to late-day gold, the city humming around them. Elena felt stuck between triumph and dread. They would have to work side by side for months. Share responsibilities. Share ideas. Share space. And worst of all, she would have to get used to the way Olivia looked at her, like she already knew there was more to Elena than the armor she wore. New York streets bustled with the evening rush, but Elena and Olivia stood still for a moment on the sidewalk, the energy of the city whirling around them. "So," Olivia said, hugging her portfolio to her chest, "partners." Elena met her gaze. Those warm eyes again. Too kind. Too honest. Too dangerous. "Temporary partners," Elena corrected. Olivia nodded, though her smile said she wasn't convinced. "Temporary, sure. A cab rushed by, splashing a puddle that narrowly missed them. Elena muttered under her breath. Olivia laughed softly, a sound so warm it cut through the chill of the autumn air. They didn't know it yet, but the city had already decided on their fate. New York was a messy, unpredictable matchmaker. But when it wanted two souls to collide, it didn't ask for permission. Their journey would take them from fierce conflict to fragile trust, through heartbreak and healing, and into something so unexpected neither woman had dared imagine it. But that night, they were still two strangers pretending not to notice the gravity forming between them. "See you tomorrow," Olivia said before stepping off the curb, her silhouette framed by a passing taxi's headlights. Elena watched her walk away, her stomach twisting with a feeling she refused to name. She didn't know where this story was heading, but it had already begun. Olivia did not expect Elena to haunt her thoughts on the subway ride home, but she did. The train rocked in its usual erratic rhythm, commuters shoulder to shoulder, yet Olivia found herself staring at her reflection in the window, replaying Elena's laugh. It had been brief, almost reluctant, but it was enough to spark a quiet warmth in her chest. Dangerous warmth. She pressed her sketchbook against her knees, trying to focus on anything else. Not the way Elena's eyes had softened for half a second. Not the electric tension that had pulsed between them in the hallway. Not the fact that they would be sharing an office space first thing tomorrow morning. Partnerships had always been a challenge for Olivia. People made assumptions when they saw her kindness, they mistook it for weakness. They believed they could overshadow her or ignore her, or pull ahead of her. She'd learned to hold her ground gently but fiercely. But Elena was different. Sharp. Intense. Brilliant in ways Olivia couldn't deny. She was the type of woman who lived on precision and control, who didn't leave room for softness. And yet something in her, something buried deep, had sparked the moment their defenses collided. Olivia exhaled slowly. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. The next morning, Elena arrived at Nova Agency earlier than usual. She pretended it was because she had a mountain of work, but she knew better. She wanted control of the space, the environment, her nerves. She refused to let Olivia walk in and disrupt her equilibrium. She set her coffee down, booted up her computer, and stared at the empty spot across from her. The seat Olivia would be using. A small part of her hoped Olivia would be late. Then she immediately hated herself for hoping that, because it meant she cared enough to have an opinion. At exactly 8:45, there was a soft knock on the glass door. Olivia stepped inside, warm morning light catching the edges of her hair. She held a box of pastries like a peace offering. "Good morning," she said gently. Elena stood straighter. "You're early." "So are you." They both paused. Then, unexpectedly, Olivia smiled. "I brought these," she said, lifting the box. "The team said they like the chocolate croissants from that bakery on 5th. Elena cleared her throat. "I don't eat pastry in the morning." "That's okay." They do. Annoyingly considerate. Irritatingly thoughtful. The kind of kindness that made Elena feel seen in ways she wasn't ready for. By mid-morning, their collaboration had already proven to be complicated. Olivia's brainstorming was fluid and intuitive. She talked in shapes, colors, emotions. Elena talked in numbers, timelines, projections. Their approaches clashed at every turn, words tangling in either friction or forced politeness. At one point, Elena snapped, "You can't just design based on vibes. Clients need structure." Olivia blinked. "They need emotion too. Otherwise, why would people care? Emotion doesn't close deals." Olivia tilted her head. "Actually, it does." Elena opened her mouth, but she had no comeback. Because deep down she knew Olivia was right. They worked in tense silence for several minutes before Olivia softly broke it. "You know," she said without looking up from her sketchpad, "we don't have to be enemies." "We're not," Elena said too quickly. "Then what are we?" Elena froze. The question hovered between them, a quiet challenge wrapped in sincerity. "We're colleagues," Elena said finally. "Temporary colleagues," Olivia corrected with a small smirk. Elena felt heat crawl up her neck. "Right. Temporary." But fate, as usual, had other plans. By noon, their boss informed them that the client expected early drafts by the following week, an impossible timeline that required longer hours, shared responsibilities, and, unfortunately, shared dinners. That evening they stayed late at the office. The city outside darkened into blues and purples, Manhattan's lights flickering alive like a constellation. Olivia sat cross-legged on the couch in the lounge, flipping through sketches. Elena sat at the long table, tapping her pen against a stack of analytics. The silence between them had shifted, not exactly comfortable, but no longer sharp. "Here," Olivia said, rising and handing over a page. "What is this?" Elena asked, taking it cautiously. "A concept for the introductory reel. You said we needed structure, so I tried to give it more shape." Elena studied the sketch. It was clean, emotional, visually striking. It wasn't perfect, but it was brilliant in ways that made her chest tighten. "You really did all this tonight?" Elena asked quietly. "Yes. I can work fast when I'm inspired." Elena looked up. "Inspired by what?" Olivia hesitated, then gave a soft but devastatingly honest smile. "You challenge me." Elena's breath caught. For a heartbeat, the world went still. She didn't know what to do with the warmth spreading through her ribs, or the way Olivia's sincerity disarmed her completely. She was used to competition, ambition, battles. She wasn't used to someone offering her kindness without agenda. Noting Elena's silence, Olivia stepped back slightly. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." "You didn't," Elena said quickly. "Too quickly. I'm not used to this." "To what?" "To someone trying to understand me." Olivia softened. "Then maybe you deserve more of it." Elena had to look away. The vulnerability hurt. It cracked something open that she'd kept locked for years, and she wasn't sure she wanted it open. Before she could respond, the office lights flickered, a power glitch from the late-night building cycling. Olivia laughed lightly. "It's like the universe is saying go home." "Or," Elena said quietly, "we finish this." Olivia's smile deepened. "Okay, let's finish it." Hours passed. The project slowly came together piece by piece. Their ideas began complementing each other instead of colliding. Elena offered clarity, Olivia offered soul, and somehow the combination made everything sharper, richer, more powerful. By the time they finished, it was nearly midnight. Olivia leaned back on the couch, exhausted but glowing. "We actually make a good team." Elena sat beside her, careful not to let their shoulders touch. A surprisingly good one. They caught each other's eyes and didn't look away. Something warm settled between them. Something unspoken, magnetic. The kind of connection people spent years searching for and rarely found. But then Elena stood abruptly, grabbing her coat. "We should go. It's late." Olivia blinked at the sudden shift. "Right. Of course." They rode the elevator down in silence. The air felt too tight, too charged. Elena tried to focus on the metallic walls. Olivia stared at the glowing numbers. When the elevator doors opened into the empty lobby, they stepped out slowly. Outside, the city smelled like rain. The street was quiet, lit by street lamps reflecting off wet pavement. Olivia tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "You don't have to walk alone. I can share a cab with you." Elena hesitated, not because she didn't want to, but because she wanted it too much. "No," she said, her voice too soft for her own comfort. "But thank you." Olivia nodded, and the disappointment in her eyes made something pinch inside Elena's chest. "Good night, Elena." "Good night." They parted ways under the glow of the streetlights, walking in opposite directions, even as the pull between them lingered like a whispered promise. The days that followed grew messier, not because of conflict, but because of closeness. One afternoon, it began to rain unexpectedly as they left a client building in Soho. Olivia laughed when the first drops hit her cheeks. Elena frowned at the sky like it had personally offended her. "We're going to get soaked," Elena muttered. "Only if we let it ruin our day," Olivia replied, raising her face to the rain with an almost childlike openness. Elena stared at her. "You're unbelievable. And you're allergic to fun," Olivia teased. Elena rolled her eyes but couldn't stop the small smile forming. It was ridiculous. The whole moment was ridiculous. But Olivia's joy was contagious. They ducked into a small cafe, dripping, breathless, laughing. Olivia's hair clung to her face in soft waves. Elena's suit jacket was ruined. Neither cared as much as they normally would have. When their drinks arrived, Olivia cupped her hands around the warm mug. "Can I ask you something?" she said gently. Elena tensed. "Depends. Why do you always keep people at a distance?" Elena froze. No one had asked her that. No one had dared. "I don't," she said automatically. Olivia's expression softened with painful honesty. "You do. And it must be lonely." Elena swallowed hard. The truth dug under her ribs like a blade. She opened her mouth to respond, but just then, her phone buzzed violently. A number she recognized. A number she wished she didn't. Her father. The tension immediately returned to her shoulders. "I need to take this," Elena said abruptly, standing. Olivia watched her walk out into the rain again, feeling something fragile slip between her fingers. The call lasted only 2 minutes, but when Elena returned, she was different, colder, guarded, walls rebuilt in an instant. "Everything okay?" Olivia asked softly. "Yes," Elena lied, grabbing her coat. "We should head back." Olivia didn't push, but she felt the shift deeply. Over the next few days, Elena withdrew. She spoke less. She avoided eye contact. She drowned herself in work like she was afraid of feeling anything real. Olivia gave her space, but her heart ached. One late night at the office, when everyone else had gone home, Olivia finally approached Elena gently. "You've been distant," she said quietly. "Did I do something wrong?" Elena looked up, startled. "No. It's not you." "Then what is it?" Elena hesitated. Shadows crossed her face: fear, pride, vulnerability. "My father is sick," she said finally. "Cancer. He called to tell me the treatment isn't working." Olivia's heart clenched. "Elena, I'm so sorry." Elena shook her head, fighting the emotion rising in her throat. "We don't have a good relationship. We haven't for years. I don't even know why he calls anymore." "Because you're his daughter." "That's not enough," Elena whispered. Olivia stepped closer, carefully, gently. "It's enough for him to want to hear your voice." Elena's eyes glistened. She looked away, ashamed of her own tears. "You don't have to be strong right now," Olivia said softly. Elena blinked rapidly. "I don't want you to see me like this." "Why not?" "Because I don't know how to let people in." "And you—" She stopped. Olivia waited, breath held. "You're getting too close," Elena finished. The confession hung in the air, raw and trembling. Olivia's voice was steady. "Then let me." Elena's chest tightened painfully. She shook her head. "I can't." She pushed past Olivia and walked toward the hallway before her emotions could betray her. Olivia didn't follow, but her voice reached Elena's back, soft, cracked, hopeful. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I just care. More than I should." Elena paused in the doorway. Then she whispered, "That's the problem." And she walked out. The days that followed felt strangely hollow for both of them. Elena buried herself in work, refusing to acknowledge the ache left by her own words. She told herself she was protecting Olivia, protecting their project, protecting her heart. But that was a lie, and she knew it. She was running. Like always. Olivia, meanwhile, moved around the office like a quiet storm, still warm, still gentle, but dimmer somehow. She stayed professional, collaborative, thoughtful. But the spark she once carried around Elena had faded into something cautious. Something bruised. Their conversations became shorter. Their laughter disappeared. Their eyes met less often, and when they did, it felt like touching a memory instead of a person. By the time the presentation day arrived, the distance between them felt almost unbearable. The client meeting went flawlessly. Their joint proposal stunned the room into silence, then praise. Their agency won the contract. Their boss nearly lifted them off the ground in a hug. But Olivia and Elena didn't celebrate. They stood in the hallway afterward, alone, the applause fading behind closed doors. "You were brilliant in there," Olivia said, offering a faint smile but not her heart. "You were too," Elena replied, her voice caught between gratitude and regret. A long silence stretched between them, one filled with all the things they weren't saying. Finally, Olivia inhaled. "We're done working together now. The teams will take it from here." "I know," Elena said softly. "So, this is goodbye, I guess." Elena's stomach dropped. She didn't expect the words to hurt this much. "I don't want it to be goodbye," Elena said before she could stop herself. Olivia blinked, her eyes flickering with surprise then pain. Then why did you push me away? Elena froze. Because she was scared. Because she didn't know how to love someone gently. Because Olivia made her feel things she didn't have names for. But she said none of that. Old habits, old fears coiled around her throat. It's complicated, Elena whispered. That's not an answer, Olivia replied quietly. Elena looked down, jaw tight, hands trembling. Olivia waited for honesty, for courage, for something real. But after a long suffocating pause, it became clear Elena wasn't ready. And Olivia walked away. Elena didn't follow. Not until it was too late. A week passed. New York continued spinning, loud and indifferent. But Elena's world felt muted. She went to work. She came home. She tried to care. She tried to forget. But Olivia's laugh echoed in her mind. Olivia's gentleness warmed the coldest parts of her. Olivia's eyes, those patient, hopeful eyes, haunted her at night. On the 7th night, Elena found herself staring at the untouched dinner on her counter, hands shaking from a loneliness she had created. She grabbed her coat and left without knowing where she was going. She walked aimlessly through Manhattan until she stopped at a familiar building, the hospital. She didn't remember telling the cab driver the address. She wasn't sure she'd spoken at all. Her father had been admitted 2 days prior. She hadn't visited. She'd convinced herself work was an excuse, but Olivia's voice echoed painfully in the back of her mind. You don't have to be strong right now. Inside his room, her father lay asleep, frail, small in ways she wasn't prepared for. The sight cracked open something deep in her chest, something raw and childlike. She sat beside him, the silence heavy. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. I don't know how to forgive you. And I don't know how to stop being angry at myself. Her father didn't wake, but his fingers twitched slightly as if reaching. Tears slipped down Elena's face. She didn't wipe them away. I met someone, she confessed softly. Someone who makes me want to be different. Her voice broke. But I pushed her away. Because I'm afraid. Because I don't know how to love without losing. She took a trembling breath. I think I lost her anyway. Her father stirred, eyes fluttering weakly open. He looked at her with a mixture of regret and tenderness she wasn't expecting. Elena, he rasped. She'll forgive you. People who love you, they stay. Elena bowed her head, shoulders shaking. I don't deserve her. Maybe not, he whispered. But you can try. It was the first real conversation they'd had in years. And as her father drifted back into sleep, Elena felt something shift inside her, a quiet, painful clarity. She had a choice. She could keep running. Or she could fight for the one person who had seen her fully without fear. She stood, wiped her tears, and left the room with a single thought repeating in her mind. Find Olivia. It wasn't hard to guess where she'd be. The design studio Olivia rented on weekends sat on the corner of a quiet street in Brooklyn, tucked between a florist and a vintage bookstore. Elena had never been inside, but she'd heard Olivia talk about it with a softness that made it sound like a sanctuary. When Elena arrived, rain had begun to fall, tapping softly against the windows. She hesitated at the door, terrified she was too late. Terrified Olivia had moved on. Terrified this was a mistake. But she knocked anyway. After a long moment, Olivia opened the door, paint smudged on her fingers, hair loosely tied, eyes tired but still impossibly beautiful. Elena, she said softly, startled. Hi, Elena whispered. They stood there in silence, the rain filling the space between their heartbeats. You shouldn't be here, Olivia said gently, but her voice wavered. I know, Elena replied. But I needed to see you. Elena stepped inside before she lost courage. The studio smelled like lavender and paper and Olivia. Sketches lined the walls, fluid, emotional, alive. Elena swallowed hard. Your work is beautiful. Thank you, Olivia said quietly. Why are you here, Elena? Fear clawed at her ribs, but she forced the words out. I'm sorry, she whispered. Olivia froze. For what? She asked carefully. For pushing you away. For shutting you out. For hurting you when you were the only person who... Elena's voice cracked. The only person who made me feel safe. Olivia inhaled sharply but didn't speak. Elena continued, voice trembling. My father is dying. And I've spent my entire life pretending I'm fine. Pretending I don't need anyone. Pretending emotions make you weak. She met Olivia's gaze, tears gathering. But then I met you. And suddenly, emotions didn't feel like a weakness anymore. They felt like hope. Olivia swallowed hard, her eyes shining. Elena, I'm terrified, Elena admitted. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be open. I don't know how to not ruin things. But I know I don't want to lose you. Not without trying. Olivia's resolve trembled. You hurt me. I know, Elena whispered. And I will spend however long it takes to earn your trust again. A long silence followed, quiet, heavy, trembling with possibility. Then Olivia spoke, her voice barely above a breath. I didn't want to walk away from you. Elena stepped closer. Then don't. Olivia looked at her, really looked at her, and something warm flickered in her eyes. I wanted you to choose me. I'm choosing you now, Elena said, tears falling freely. Not because I'm unbroken. Not because I'm brave. But because you make me want to be. For the first time in weeks, Olivia smiled, soft, fragile, luminous. She closed the distance between them. Elena, she whispered, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. I'm trying, Elena breathed. Olivia reached out gently, brushing her fingers against Elena's cheek, a touch full of grace, forgiveness, and something deeper. I know, she said. The rain whispered against the windows. The city hummed beyond the walls. And in the quiet warmth of that Brooklyn studio, something finally mended between them. Olivia rested her forehead against Elena's, eyes soft. I care about you. More than makes sense. Elena let out a shaky laugh, relief crashing over her. Good. Because I care about you more than I can explain. They stood like that, wrapped in fragile tenderness, until Olivia gently took Elena's hand. Stay, Olivia whispered. I will, Elena promised. As long as you want me to. Outside, New York buzzed with its usual chaos, unaware of the life-changing moment unfolding in a tiny studio lit by rain and hope. Inside, two women, once rivals, once strangers, found something rare and extraordinary. Not perfection, not certainty, but love. Unexpected, unlikely, and absolutely theirs. Elena exhaled, feeling her guard finally fall. Olivia smiled, her eyes shining with something soft and bright. You're not running anymore, she said. No, Elena replied, voice steady. I'm home. They held each other as the rain softened outside, as the city roared and their hearts finally quieted. And just like that, in the most unpredictable city in the world, two souls who had once collided now fit together in a way that felt inevitable. Their story, full of rivalry, heartbreak, healing, and love, wasn't perfect. But it was real. And it was only the beginning. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.